About 35 years. And so when we got here this morning, the person who nominated me, she can't come because she's ill. She and another friend told me that my mission here was to see if me and Mrs. Jones was still on the jukebox. So we came in that back door over there by parking, and I looked in the corner where I know the jukebox should be, no jukebox. So I went and found in the cafeteria area a young woman and a gentleman probably in his 50s working, employees, and I said, "Is there still a jukebox in this space?" And the young woman, student I'm sure, said, "Jukebox? That's a machine that plays music, right?" No, just saying. Okay? All right, so as I look back over the years and try to identify exactly what I want to say about Douglas and here today, I came up with a few key words, and they are rigor, excellence, setting, or context, and home. And so as you heard, the Student Center was my home away from home because I was a commuter. I grew up in Sayreville, and I grew up being told that I was going to go to Douglas. For as long as I can remember, I wanted to be a teacher. My mother told me I was going to Douglas, and that's where I wound up, Douglas. And I was really happy to be here. Neither of my parents went to college, so my mother was really invested in me, not only attending, but finishing. And so was I. I always loved school, and the liberal arts education that I got at Douglas really just fulfilled me. And I was able to double major in French and Russian and get a teaching credential. So let's talk about rigor, first of all. Double major and a teaching credential in 4 years. Did my student teaching down the road here in East Brunswick. It set me on the road. I've always loved learning. I've always loved school. My big sister, I made her teach me to read before I went to kindergarten, so then I was bored in kindergarten. Because they teach you to read, at least back then. Now they teach you in preschool. So I went on and did all those degrees you heard about, but really the accomplishment for me was learning about who I was, how I learn best, what my interests are, and expanding on those. And so when you come to number 2, excellence, about Douglas, I sang in the Voorhees Chapel Choir back when Dr. Kavam was, I saw that, oh my God, over there. Yeah, remember. And I mean, he made us memorize the music and the words, and there was this, we did some marvelous concerts, really excellent music. And to me, that's where I met some of my best friends from Douglas, was in the choir. And there was this one weekend that's just one of my favorite memories. I always had to work because I was a commuter and I paid for my own education. It was a lot less expensive back then. But, I had part-time jobs during the school year, a couple of full-time jobs in the summer. But I was able to carve out this weekend when we went, the whole choir, by bus, up to MIT to join their men's chorus and sing a concert. I don't remember what we sang, but I remember the music was really big, and it had a green cover, those green music covers. And that was just so much fun, and the concert was so incredible, and having the 4 voices, so we all worked it up, and then when we got together, we rehearsed and we performed, and then we came home. Number 3, so we've done rigor, excellence, setting. And I've just always been, I only learned this later in life, but I'm all about context. When you ask me a question, you're going to hear every last background piece of information before I get to the answer to your question. It drives some people crazy. But and then when people give me an answer to one of my questions, I interrogate them. I've been told to stop interrogating me because I want all the background information, right? So I say that in prefacing to where Douglas is in the city, in New Brunswick, where you have this phenomenal setting, and it's so real life, and it was really real back in the 70s, okay? I just love that about it, because I always had one foot planted firmly in academia and one foot in just the local streets and places of business and schools and community organizations. So that was important. And what it brought out for me was, it wasn't until I was doing a doctorate that my advisor, who is a woman, and I've had wonderful advisors through my whole life, she said, no, it was before, it was when I was doing my second master's. She said, you're a practice looking for a theory. That's what she said. You need to do a doctorate, right? You need to know what theory undergirds the practice that you are doing intuitively, because I was leading in schools by intuition. And it just happened to be that my intuition was right. So I had gotten good results. But it really does help to know the theory that supports what you're doing, that grounds your practice. I found that out by doing a doctorate. And then that was right before I got Davidson Middle School, which was the job of my life. Principal is the job of my life. Davidson was the school of my life. And because I had done that doctorate and I had that theoretical knowledge, I could, instead of just making people do what I told them to do, I could actually explain to them why it was the right thing to do, talking about my faculty, you know. I could give them an article, show them a little clip of a video, and say, this is why we're doing restorative practices, this is why we're... So the doctorate made a huge difference, and I really did it not in addition to get theory to ground my practice. I did it just to be forced to do research and write, because I wasn't going to do it if someone didn't force me, and I wanted to do it, and it made me do that. So I have this great doctorate, great dissertation. All right, so that brings me back to home, and this building is my home, away from home. For 4 years, I met my best friends, Gloria, who nominated me, Cindy, who's actually, ironically, living in Florida, but visiting in California this weekend, so I missed her because I wound up coming here. But I've already sent them pictures and everything. I don't know what to say about that. I already told you about me and Mrs. Jones, so I'll just close with the future, because I forgot all about having to say something about that. But every fall, for years now, when I read my local paper back in California, there's a big post office in Oakland, California, that advertises for volunteers. And I've been thinking through this last year, because I'm retiring on July 1st, and it's been a joy to think about what am I going to do next, right, in retirement. And I think volunteering in some ways is a good thing. But the first thing I want to do is, they advertise every year for volunteers to reply. They get about 50,000 or more letters to Santa, and they just sit there. And they need people to write back to these little babies that write to Santa every fall. So this fall, when they advertise for people to write back to Santa, I will have the time to actually respond. And that's the first thing I'm going to do after we get back from a long vacation, my husband and I, this summer. And so the bottom line is, my time at Douglas really set me up the road to realizing my dreams. And I want to thank Douglas College and the AADC for this recognition, and it's just a joy to come home. Thank you.